Have you ever felt that that subtle whisper of doubt, or maybe that nagging pull of fear?
Oh, yeah. Or, the sweet, deceptive lure of temptation.
Exactly. Those moments when you feel like something's trying to push you off course could be an inner voice, could be external pressure.
We all face them, don't we?
Yeah,
These inner battles, these outer
we
adversaries.
really do. But what if we could learn from someone, an ancient master, who faced these things head on, not just once, but like consistently, and always won?
Well, that's exactly where our deep dive takes us today.
Yeah.
We're heading into a really fascinating, profound corner of ancient wisdom.
Okay.
It's the Pali Canon, and specifically a collection of texts called the Mārasaṃyuttaṃ.
Mārasaṃyuttaṃ, got it.
And this is where we find this epic, centuries-old dialogue between the Buddha and this powerful, really enigmatic figure known as Mara.
No, Mara. It's easy to just jump to thinking evil demon, right? Like something out of mythology.
That's the simple picture, yeah.
Yeah.
But as we unpack these texts, you find he's much more complex than that. Mara isn't just some antagonist. He's actually the personification of the very forces that, bind us to suffering, the things that block our liberation.
So, like, what kind of forces are we talking about?
Think craving, aversion, delusion, even death itself.
Yeah.
Basically, all the distractions, all the temptations of the material world that keep us tangled up, stuck in samsara, that cycle of rebirth and suffering.
Right. That endless cycle. So our mission today then is...
Our mission is to dive deep into these ancient encounters. We want to pull out the surprising facts, those profound nuggets of knowledge, maybe some aha moments that show exactly how the Buddha consistently overcame Mara. We'll look at the different tactics Mara used, and crucially, the Buddha's responses, which were always calm, always powerful.
And the idea is to show how these lessons, even though they're ancient, can be like incredibly relevant for us now, for navigating our own challenges.
Precisely. Finding that unshakable center within ourselves. These stories offer a kind of blueprint.
Okay, let's unpack this then. Get ready for a deep dive into ancient wisdom that feels, well, surprisingly relevant today.
Let's do it.
So where did Mara often start? What was his go-to tactic?
Well, often it was raw intimidation. He really went for the scare tactics first. He'd appear as these terrifying beasts. In one story, the Nagasuttan, he shows up as a gigantic elephant in the dark, just looming there to cause fear.
Wow.
Or in another, the Saṃyutta, he turns into this enormous snake. The description is intense body like a large boat, hood like a huge potter's shed.
Whoa.
Eyes like bronze bowls, tongue like lightning, breathing like a blacksmith's bellows. Trying to frighten the Buddha in his solitary dwelling. Imagine that.
That's some serious psychological warfare. So how did the Buddha react? Did he fight back?
That's what's so profound. He didn't really fight in the way we think. In the elephant story, he simply recognizes Mara, just sees him for what he is, identifies him, and dismisses him. Says basically, I know you, you've already been defeated.
No fear, just
Yeah.
recognition.
Exactly. No struggle, just this calm knowing. It's an inner composure that makes the external threat, however terrifying it looks, completely powerless.
It makes you wonder, doesn't it? If they could be so unshakable against threats that vivid, how do we even start to apply that in our, much noisier modern world?
That's the key question. And Mara didn't just stop at monstrous forms. He used the environment too. Like in the Pasasutta,
What happened there?
the Buddha's on Vulture Peak, meditating, and Mara tries to scare him by making it seem like huge rocks are about to fall on him.
Okay, that would get my attention.
Right. But the Buddha's response, again, shows this radical inner freedom. He says something like, even if this entire mountain, Gashakua, were to shake, it wouldn't disturb someone who's perfectly liberated.
So liberation isn't about controlling the outside world.
Exactly. It's about making yourself unshakable no matter what storms are raging outside. It totally flips our usual idea of seeking security, doesn't it?
It really does. And it wasn't just visual scares you mentioned.
No, he used sounds too, terrifying sounds. In the Etana Sutta and Samiti Sutta, he causes this loud, terrifying sound, like the earth itself is shaking.
While the Buddha was teaching, or his disciples.
Yeah, trying to disrupt them while they were teaching about the six sense spheres, sight, sound, smell, taste, touch, mind, trying to undermine the teaching itself.
Clever or sneaky.
Very. But again, the Buddha identifies Mara, and he explains that sensory objects, the things we see, hear, etc., are like terrible worldly bait.
Bait?
Yeah, things that hook us. But those who transcend attachment to these sensory experiences, they shine brightly. They're beyond Mara's control. It's not about the noise. It's about your reaction or lack of reaction to it.
So Mara's constantly probing, looking for any crack in that inner peace.
That's a good way to put it.
But what happened when fear didn't work? Did he just give up?
Oh, no, not Mara.
Yeah.
He just shifts tactics. If intimidation fails, he turns to, well, the opposite. Allure, pleasure, power, worldly attachments.
Ah, the carrot instead of the stick.
Precisely. In one story, the Saṃyutta, he disguises himself as an old Brahmin, goes up to some young monks,
Okay.
and urges them to enjoy human sensual pleasures. Tells them to ditch the Dhamma, saying it only promises benefits way off in the future. Basically, live for today, enjoy yourself now.
The classic temptation. How did the monks respond?
They saw right through it. They firmly rejected him. They said, basically, sensual pleasures actually bring a lot of suffering in the end. And the Dhamma, it's not just some future promise. It's immediately visible and inviting. Its benefits are felt right here, right now.
Ah, so it's about present liberation, not just waiting for some reward later.
Exactly. They weren't fooled by the illusion of instant gratification.
Okay, so sensual pleasure fails. What else? Possessions.
Yep. In the Nandatisatai, Mara tries that angle. He proposes that happiness comes from having things, children, cattle, the usual markers of success back then, and sorrow comes from lacking them.
Which is, let's be honest, how most of us are kind of taught to think about happiness, isn't it?
It really is. It's the default mode for many. But the Buddha flips it completely. He counters with this radical truth. Sorrow comes from the attachment to those very possessions.
Whoa, so it's the wanting, the holding on that causes the pain.
Precisely. And true happiness, real freedom, comes from being without those attachments. It's not about what you have, it's about what you're free from.
That's a powerful shift in perspective, especially today when we're constantly told to want more.
It's incredibly relevant. And then there's power. Mara even dangled the ultimate worldly power.
Kingship.
Kingship, exactly, in the Rajjavaggo. The Buddha was actually contemplating whether it's possible to rule righteously without causing harm or sorrow.
A noble thought.
And Mara jumps right in, says, yeah, you should totally do it. Become king. You have immense powers. He even suggests the Buddha could turn Mount Himavanta, the Himalayas, into pure gold.
Turn the Himalayas into gold. It's quite the offer.
Ultimate worldly dominion, right. But the Buddha just rejects it outright. He says even a mountain of solid gold wouldn't be enough for one person's desires.
Wow.
And he emphasizes that someone who truly sees how suffering arises, who understands attachment, just cannot be swayed by those kinds of desires. Worldly power is just another trap, another form of attachment.
So he sees through the allure of gold, power, everything. And then there are Mara's daughters. Right. That's a really famous story.
Ah, yes. The Māravaggo are dramatic. His three daughters, their names are symbolic. Tancha, which is craving.
Raven. Okay.
Radhiki, which means discontent or aversion.
Discontent.
And Raga, which is passion or lust. They find their father Mara all dejected because he can't get to the Buddha.
So they decide to try.
They offer to tempt the Buddha themselves.
Yeah.
And they really pull out all the stops.
Yeah.
They approach him in various seductive forms, first as young maidens, then as women who've just given birth, maybe once, maybe twice, showing different stages of life, then as middle-aged women, and even as older women, trying every angle.
They covered the whole spectrum of female allure, basically.
Pretty much. Trying to find some form of desire he might respond to. But the text says the Buddha remained completely unmoved. Didn't even acknowledge them.
He didn't fight it. He just wasn't affected.
It seems so. It's portrayed as if he wasn't even there for the temptation to land on. His liberation was so complete, their power just had no effect. It shows this incredible inner freedom from sensual desire.
And the daughters themselves realize this, don't they?
They do. They end up lamenting that their power, which could drive any ordinary, unliberated person completely mad, had absolutely zero effect on the Buddha. It's a stark confirmation from Mara's own side, really, that the Buddha was truly free.
Wow. Okay, so physical intimidation fails, sensual temptation fails. What's left for Mara?
Well, he gets more subtle. He starts using mental snares, philosophical challenges, trying to trap the Buddha's mind, so doubt.
How so? Give me an example.
Okay, so after the Buddha gave up extreme asceticism, starving himself and all that, Mara questions his new path. This is in the Tapokamma Sutta.
Right, the middle way.
Exactly. Mara basically suggests, hey, you gave up the hard stuff. Have you strayed? How can you reach purity now?
Trying to undermine his confidence in the path he'd found.
Ah, planting seeds of doubt. Classic.
Classic Mara. But the Buddha's response is firm. He asserts his purity came not from that harsh self-mortification, but from developing morality, sila, concentration, samadhi, and wisdom, panya.
The 3 core trainings.
Right. He essentially says, this is the real path to purity, and through this, I've defeated you. It dismantles Mara's doubt with clear insight.
Provides the actual blueprint. Okay, what other mental traps?
Well, Mara claims the Buddha is bound by snares, both divine and human snares, trying to imply that maybe even the Buddha isn't really free deep down. This is in the Pāpāpasa Sutta and Ditthiyapasa Sutta.
Suggesting limitations?
Yeah. But the Buddha just cuts through it, declares himself freed from all snares, saying he's cut them off completely. And then he immediately turns to his monks and encourages them to go out and teach the Dhamma for everyone's welfare, precisely because they can become free too. So it's not just his own freedom, but a path available to others.
It's a declaration of potential collective liberation. Anyone who follows the path can cut those snares.
Okay, this next one sounds interesting. The sleep of the liberated, what's that about?
Yeah. The Sopasa Sutta and Sakalika Sutta. Mara basically tries to criticize the Buddha for sleeping.
For sleeping? Really?
Yeah. He implies it's laziness or weakness, especially when the Buddha is seen lying down after, say, a long night of meditation, or even when he was resting after being injured by a rock splinter.
Seems like Mara's reaching a bit there.
He's trying to find any fault, even in something totally natural like rest. But the Buddha's explanation is beautiful. He says his sleep isn't laziness. It's a sleep of profound peace.
Peace.
Yes, born from total freedom from craving and attachment, and also out of compassion for all beings. He sleeps serenely, the text says, because the dart of suffering has been completely pulled out of his heart.
The dart of suffering removed. That's a powerful image, not just fatigue, but true contentment.
Exactly. A deep, profound stillness. Worlds away from ordinary sleep, driven by exhaustion or worry.
Okay. And Mara also tried to snare the mind directly, with thoughts and perceptions.
Yes, in the Manasa Sutta, he claims his snare of the mind, mental perceptions, thoughts themselves, can bind the Buddha.
So attacking the thinking process itself.
Right. But the Buddha's response, again, it just cuts to the core. He replies that his desire for all sensory objects, forms, sounds, tastes, smells, touch, is completely gone. Vanished.
It's after because the desire is gone.
Mara is powerless because his snares rely on attachment to those sensory experiences. If there's no attachment, the snare has nothing to grab onto. It's like the trap is set, but there's nothing to catch.
The hook finds no purchase.
Perfectly put.
And this ties into ideas of ownership too, right? There's a story with a farmer.
Yes, the Kasaka Sutta. Mara appears as a farmer and claims ownership over everything related to the senses, the eye and forms, the ear and sounds, and so on.
So he's saying, this is all my territory. How can you possibly escape?
Pretty much. How can you operate outside my domain? But the Buddha's reply is incredibly direct and really gets to the heart of non-self.
What does he say?
He says essentially, where there is no I, no form, no consciousness of form arising from that contact, Mara has no reach, no jurisdiction.
So where that process of identification and attachment doesn't happen,
Mara's power dissolves. And the Buddha clarifies further, saying, what they say is not mine, those who say are not me. It's a complete rejection of identifying with the senses or the sense objects or even the idea of a self that owns them.
A total dismantling of Mara's whole concept of ownership and identity. Powerful stuff.
Deeply powerful. It strikes at the root of suffering, the clinging to I and mine.
It really does. Okay, Mara also tried giving bad life advice. Like telling people life is long.
He did. In the Pahamāya Sutta and Duttiya Sutta, he argues human life is long, so you should just relax, enjoy yourself, don't worry too much about spiritual practice, encouraging complacency.
The opposite of urgency.
Exactly. But the Buddha corrects him sharply, says life is short, and you should live with urgency, like someone whose head is literally on fire, because death is certain.
Head on fire. That's vivid.
It is. He uses another analogy, too. Life diminishes constantly, like the water level dropping in a small river. It doesn't just keep rolling steadily onward like a chariot wheel. It's a constant call to wake up, to practice now.
No time for complacency. Okay, what about the lion's roar? Mara challenged his confidence.
Yeah, in Asya Sutta, the Buddha is teaching confidently in front of a big assembly, making what's called a lion's roar, a bold declaration of truth. And Mara pipes up, basically asking, why are you roaring like a lion if you still have an adversary like me around?
Trying to undermine his authority again, make him seem insecure.
Precisely. But the Buddha explains that Tathagata Buddhas, the fully liberated ones who are empowered and have totally crossed over all worldly attachments, they naturally roar like lions in assemblies.
It's not arrogance.
No, it's the natural, fearless expression of profound liberation and certainty in the truth they've realized. It flows from that freedom.
Gotcha. Okay, finally in this section, there's the story of Gautama. You mentioned it's somber but profound.
Yes, the Gautama Sutta. It is a difficult story. It involves a monk, Gautama, who achieves temporary liberation, a state of deep peace and insight 6 times. But he keeps falling back out of it.
6 times? That must have been incredibly difficult.
Immensely frustrating, yes. So on his 7th attempt to reach that state, believing he might fall back again, he decides to take his own life while in that state to ensure final, irreversible liberation.
Okay.
Now, Mara sees this happening, and thinking Gautama hasn't fully attained Nibbana, he tries to intervene, to stop it somehow. And afterwards, he searches everywhere for Gautama's consciousness. Where did it go? Where was he reborn?
But he can't find it.
He cannot find it anywhere. And the Buddha then declares that Gautama has attained ultimate Nibbana, Parinibbana, the final cessation. He's cut off craving entirely.
And his consciousness?
The Buddha says it's unestablished. It hasn't lodged anywhere. It hasn't found any ground, any basis in attachment, any place to arise again. The cycle is truly broken.
So Mara is completely thwarted.
Utterly. The text says Mara is left just playing his lute, totally dejected, because Gautama has completely escaped his domain, his entire realm of influence, through Nibbana. It's a very stark depiction of Nibbana as the ultimate freedom from suffering and rebirth.
Wow. That's, profound is the right word. And it really leads us to Mara's final moments in these texts, right? His ultimate frustration.
Absolutely. It culminates in his admission of defeat. In the Sattavassa Sutta, Mara himself admits he followed the Buddha relentlessly for 7 whole years.
Yeah, 7 years.
7 years, constantly looking for an opening, some lapse, some weakness, some foothold, and he found absolutely nothing.
He couldn't find any chink in the armor.
None at all. And the analogy he uses is really poignant. He compares himself to children who pull a crab out of the water and break off all its limbs so it can never ever return to the water. Mara says the Buddha has similarly severed all his limbs, all his snares, making it totally impossible for Mara to ever approach him again with any hope of success.
He's been completely disarmed.
Completely. The text describes him sitting there in utter dejection, just scratching the ground with his stick. It's a powerful image of complete impotence, total failure.
His persistence finally, utterly broken.
Yes. And we saw this confirmed earlier, didn't we? By his own daughters.
Right. Craving, discontent, and passion after they failed to tempt the Buddha.
They go back to their father and basically say, Dad, you were right. They acknowledge that the Buddha is truly an arahant, a worthy one, totally purified, and a Sugata, a well-gone one, someone who's reached the ultimate goal.
They recognize his status.
They recognize he's someone who simply cannot be led by passion anymore. He has well and truly crossed over Mara's domain. Their own failure and lament confirms Mara's complete and final defeat in relation to the Buddha.
The very forces that bind everyone else just have no effect on him.
None whatsoever.
Phew! What a journey we've just taken through those ancient encounters. It's really something.
It really is.
We've seen Mara, this personification of our deepest fears, our attachments, temptations, throw literally everything he had at the Buddha. Terrifying beasts, falling rocks.
The scariest things imaginable.
Then the most enticing sensual pleasures, philosophical arguments, doubts about the path itself.
He tried every angle. Fear, desire, intellect.
And through it all, the Buddha just remained unmoved.
Completely unmoved. And his victories, they weren't won with, weapons or fighting back in that sense.
Yeah.
They were won with this unshakable inner peace, this profound wisdom, unwavering mindfulness, and just a complete liberation from all forms of attachment and identification. Like we said, he simply wasn't there for Mara to grab onto.
He wasn't graspable. But here's where it gets really interesting, I think, for us listening now. These ancient battles, they're like a mirror, aren't they, for our modern lives?
Absolutely. Every time you feel overwhelmed by fear or distracted by some fleeting pleasure, or you feel really bound up in the idea of this is mine.
That's your Mara.
That's your own Mara showing up in a way. And the Buddha's response is, they offer this incredibly powerful blueprint.
What's the core of that blueprint?
Recognize the illusion for what it is. See the hook. Detach from the craving that arises. Find that space of inner freedom.
Recognize, detach, find freedom.
In essence, yes.
So what does this all really mean then for you listening?
Well, think about it. If Mara, the literal personification of all internal and external obstacles, couldn't sway the enlightened mind,
even by offering the whole world or turning into the most terrifying beast.
Right. If none of that worked, what does that tell you about where your own true freedom really lies? Is it in changing the world outside or changing your relationship to it inside?
How might recognizing those Maras in your own daily life, the doubts, the fears, the cravings, how might just seeing them actually empower you to navigate them differently? With more wisdom, maybe. More peace.
Exactly. It changes the game when you recognize the player.
So here's something to consider, maybe mull over today. What Maras are you encountering right now, big or small? And how might these deep, ancient insights from the Buddha's encounters change the way you choose to respond?